In episode 5, we have the shareholder meeting, and it doesn't look like a deal is going to be reached between Sandy, Stewie, and Logan. And Logan is in pretty rough shape after his little spell at Aronson's. And this is really stressful for both sides. Both sides have spent $100 million plus to try to win this vote if it does go to a vote, but at the moment, it's way too close to call. Kendall ends up going to wherever his team posts up, looks like a hotel room, and he gets a call from Frank, who lets him know that Logan is perfectly content with going to a vote, which is really, really stupid of him. Frank called because he knows that it's stupid, and he wants to possibly use Ken as like a back channel to talk to Stewie and Sandy. So Ken ends up calling Stewie up and encouraging him to try to make a deal because he can't enact change if the family isn't in control. He tells Stewie, "I'm your biggest asset in the company, and I know that you guys don't want to do this roll of the dice chance any more than we do. Come on, you want something out of this? Sandy wants to hurt my dad. Let's make this happen. I have an inside track with my dad, and I know that he's willing to take this thing to a vote. I know you guys are angling for a better deal. You have no problem taking this to the brink, but you're not going to get a better deal." He's a narcissist. He thinks he can get on the floor, say a few words, and drag back all the undecided. And maybe he can. So go back to the table. Try to make a deal. And to the surprise of all of the figureheads of Waystar Royco, Jerry gets a phone call from Stewie to meet her. And while everybody's thrilled that they might be able to avoid this thing, Logan is curious on why they suddenly decided to settle. Shiv tells him it's because they know it's the smartest move. But the conspiracy theorist in Logan thinks that maybe they know something that they don't know. So he refuses to go. He sends Shiv, Roman, Jerry, and unfortunately for Frank, he's going to have to go out in the shareholder meeting and kill time. As the group is heading over to meet with Sandy and Stewie, Kendall ends up calling up Shiv and letting her know that a deal can be made. He gives her some tips on how to handle Stewie and Sandy, and then ends it with Puppet Master out. The Royco figureheads get in the room, and Sandy, the older one, is in pretty rough shape. Looks like he dealt with a stroke, and Roman jokes that he's nothing but a vegetable at this point. He's really speaking through his daughter, Sandy. It takes a special kind of narcissist who, after 9 months, decides that even though he's a boy and they're having a girl, we'll still name the child after myself. Anyway, they start going over what they want in a possible settlement, and most of it is completely understandable. Waystar agrees. But the one thing that they want that Waystar doesn't agree upon is veto control of a Roy family member taking over the company. And as you might be able to imagine, that's pretty frustrating for Roman and Shiv. Jerry, however, tells them that the deal is too good. She has to go back to Logan with it. She knows that it screws them over, possibly, but they have to see if Logan's willing to accept. And after a quick phone call with Logan, he's not. Shiv asks, "Is there anything else that we can do? We're so close to this thing." Younger Sandy talks to older Sandy and says, "We're going to have a think about this and we'll get back to you." Now, one of the people who was left out of this meeting was Connor, for obvious reasons. And since no one's around his dad, he decides to take this opportunity to ask for a part in the company, which is a bold move considering they might actually lose the company. But he wants something to build his resume upon when he runs for president. Yeah, he's still hung up on that. So just to shut him up, Logan seems to agree to give Connor European cable. He then gets a phone call from Shiv letting him know that it seems like they've been able to reach a deal. They're really close. They're just waiting to hear from the other side. And when Jerry sees that Shiv called her dad, it doesn't really sit too well with her. By the time that Jerry, Shiv, Roman get back, one person who has suddenly arrived is Greg. Greg has had quite a day. He stopped by Kendall's to apologize for doing the joint defense, and Kendall lets him know that, "Hey man, it's fine, but I might have to burn you." He would only do it if he thought that it could lead to bigger fish, but he's just giving him a courtesy warning. And that pisses off Greg because Greg was told that he wasn't going to get burned. But Kendall ends this conversation with saying that the only way that he would guarantee he doesn't get burned is by backing out of the joint defense. Greg doesn't say anything. He just walks out because he has another meeting. He has to go meet with his grandfather and Pew. And his grandfather is way more pissed off than Ken. Ken played it cool, calm, collected. His grandfather, however, feels like Greg slapped his good friend Pew in the face because he's known Pew for 50 years. It doesn't sit well with him that his grandson came, asked him for help, and then decided to go join the joint defense without even so much as a courtesy call. After the conversation he had with Ken, Greg starts asking for maybe a little bit of money to cover his backsides on both situations, but that's when his grandfather tells him that he's donating all of his money to Greenpeace, and that includes Greg's inheritance. So by the time Greg shows up at the shareholder meeting, he's not in the best mood. But he's not the only one, because Logan's mood is suddenly turned. He's acting weird. When the group comes back, everybody's celebrating the fact that they're so close to a settlement, but Logan says, nah, something's screwy, and demands that Sandy and Stewie and Sandy don't be let in the building. He has to be talked off the ledge from this absurd behavior. A little while later, Jerry gets a phone call from Sandy, and they've decided to change their offer. Instead of veto power, what they want is for the Roys to get rid of their private jets, which seems like a pretty understandable request to everybody but Roman, because Roman is so incredibly out of touch. Logan, however, doesn't give an answer, just saying, I have to go to the bathroom. And it can't come at a worse time because Carl is supposed to go on the stage and talk, and he was kind of hoping that at this point they had a settlement agreement. So when Carl goes on stage, he sandbags Frank and tells him, hey, we're going to need you to kill more time, and then leaves. When Logan waddles out of the bathroom, he looks completely disoriented. The group is asking him for an answer, and all he says is, fuck him. And most of the sane people in the room cannot believe that he just scrapped a settlement because of private jets. While they're trying to make sense of his weird behavior, Roman continues to defend his dad at every single turn, saying that he must know something, he's 6 moves ahead. The group all agrees, though, he definitely turned the deal down, so Shiv has to call Sandy's daughter and tell her no deal. As the group is waiting for the vote, Logan's behavior continues to worsen and worsen. He's making odd requests, including having Tom escort him to the bathroom every time he has to go, which seems to be every couple of minutes. But little do they know that Kendall is headed over there, because he got word that a deal wasn't reached, and he is not happy. He gets a call from Stewie letting him know that there was no deal reached, and he tells him, just don't worry, hold tight, I'll take care of it. By the time that Logan gets out of the bathroom for the second time, he is gone. He's calling Shiv Marcia. He thinks there's a dead cat under his chair. I mean, this dude is cooked. And that's when you find out that Logan has a UTI, and he probably didn't take his medication, which affects his state of mind. And this couldn't come at a worse time because he's supposed to make a speech and try to get all those shareholders who are undecided back. So the group frantically calls for a doctor to kind of salvage this thing. But after they call for a doctor, then they start wondering, at what point did he get like this? Was he like this when he said no to the offer? Should they go back to Stewie and Sandy? And as they're discussing the fact that they can't let him actually take the stage, that's when Ken shows up. And he basically just screams at them that they have to make a deal work, and then leaves. The group sends Jerry down to the stage to try to get Frank to continue to talk, but Frank is done. Instead of following Jerry's orders to stretch the speech, he ends up introducing Jerry. So she's the one who now has to drag this thing out. While Jerry is waxing poetic about how Waystar has changed their ways, a doctor has arrived. He hooks up Logan to an IV, and Shiv is hoping that by any chance they might be able to get him on stage to just say a few words. Shiv asks the consultants on what she should do, and they tell her, we strongly urge you to try to settle. She then takes a vote around the room to see if they go back to Sandy and Stewie, and the only one who pushes back is Roman at first, but eventually he agrees, yeah, all right, do the deal. So Shiv ends up going to try to track down Sandy, the younger one. But Logan's assistant then gets a phone call from the president. Apparently, he's been trying to get a hold of Logan all day, and obviously they can't let Logan talk to him at the moment. They end up putting Roman on with the president because, as Jerry puts it, Roman is bootleg Logan. And the president screams at Roman for the way that ATN is treating him, but lets him know that he's not running again. He's done. He's out. Which means that Logan Roy probably just lost a big asset. But it also means that the president has nothing to lose with his DOJ investigation. It's not the best news for Waystar. Now, down the hall at this point, Shiv has been able to get a hold of Sandy. She agrees to the demands. Sandy, however, wants to go back to her dad and see if he'll agree to it. And that's when Shiv tries to kind of talk Sandy into making an agreement right then and there. She starts off by saying it's a shame that Sandy, her dad, treats her like this, how she can't make decisions. And then she tells her that she needs a like-minded individual on the board, so they're willing to give her group one more board seat. But that would also mean that Waystar needs another board seat, and that would go to Shiv. Younger Sandy is definitely interested in this. And she tells Shiv, all right, let me go see if I can sell this, but this is good. So you've got the two women with vegetables as dads making the deals on their dad's behalf. And a little while later, a deal is reached. When Shiv gets back, Tom grabs her and starts, being real weird to her. And he lets it slip that the reason he's all up on her is because he's been tracking her ovulation in case he goes to prison. He wants to put a bun in the oven because he figures it'll be like a 9-month stint, so he wants something to look forward to when he gets out. Totally backfires on him. Instead of being turned on, Shiv is completely turned off by it. So their marriage is still weird. They end up walking back in and sending Carl down to make the announcement that a deal was reached. And when he does, the whole room erupts in applause. But as he's talking, up walks Ken. Somehow they don't have security to take care of this. They just let Ken talk because they don't have another choice. The first thing Ken does is apologize for the actions of the company. He then asks for a moment of silence for all the victims, and then he starts saying the victims' names. The only thing that the group can do is just shut his mic off, which they do, and Kendall ends up having to leave the floor. To me, who's just watching this on television, Kendall looks absolutely batshit insane. But his PR firm ends up spinning it to make it look like it's better than it is. They find the one tweet that has a positive reaction to it. Him and his team are reading all of these tweets in the basement of the building. Upstairs, however, the Waystar firm is celebrating the fact that they were able to avoid a vote. Everybody seems excited, except for Logan. At this point, he's fully cognizant. He's come back, and he's not happy about the fact that Shiv gave away a seat to Sandy and created a fourth seat. She tells her dad, we talked about this. Adding another person on the board, me or Connor, we couldn't risk a vote. You were AWOL. I mean, what would you have done? And that's the thing. Logan doesn't have an answer. He just says, not that. He then gets close to Jerry and tells her that there's blood in the water, sharks are circling, they need to be aggressive with some acquisitions. And when Shiv kind of tries to butt in on the conversation, Logan flips out at her. He yells at her, stop buzzing in my fucking ear. So that's a clear indication that Logan is 100% back. Logan also would like to send a message to Ken. He sends his assistant down to tell Ken that he wants to meet with him. But he just wastes Ken's time. Ken is in this room waiting and waiting and waiting. And then finally somebody from Waystar shows up and says, Ken, he already left. He's not coming. And when Ken tries to call his dad ends up blocking his number. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought this sucked. Make sure to be nice in the comment section. If you don't see the next video up in the end screen there, I'll get it up in a few days, not to worry. And I have merchandise, so go buy a mug or something. It's never too early to think about Christmas gifts, folks. Once again, thank you for checking out this recap.